Welcome to Athletes to Entrepreneurs, the Alumni Journey. I'm Rob Finkelstein, founder and CEO of Alumni Direct, where we've created a platform to help athletes and other alumni network and connect with each other, as well as tap into various resources in health and finance. But this show is all about transition out of sports. It's a major issue today between financial literacy and health issues, career issues. And we interview former college and professional athletes, and we talk about their journey to successful business leadership and entrepreneurship. And the whole idea is to teach and inspire athletes that there is life after sports. Today, we're so lucky to have on with us Adrian Camargo. How you doing, Adrian?
Doing well yourself?
I'm doing great, thanks. So Adrian is a former soccer player. He went to University of Texas El Paso and then played in the 23 and under professional league in Mexico. And then once that was over, he got into the IT space. And ultimately today, what he's doing is he kind of combined his IT background with his love for sports and soccer. And he's the CEO and founder of Athlete CEO. So Adrian, I like to talk about when you were growing up playing sports, how did that shape you leading up into college?
Yeah, I mean, it was like my life. Everything since I was like 4 years old revolved around going to practice a couple times a week, going to the games, tournaments on weekends, and kind of just loading up the van with my parents and my brother and just hitting the fields for a few hours. And then my dad got into reffing, and then my brother started playing. So it was just like a whole weekend out of it. Just a lot of like a planning of going to and from. Like I picked up on that, and that's a lot of the things that I do today. So that's one way that it definitely shaped me, of just how are we going to get to the field, where we're going to play, just the logistics of it. And then just being on the field, being part of a team, practicing, and just like those little moments with teammates. I cherish those, and yeah, I've taken that with me my entire life, and I still play soccer to date, trying to stay active. And yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome. Yeah, we all try to do that, but yeah, definitely the team building, the planning, just some of the skill sets that we talk about that are in that athlete DNA. So let's kind of go into college. And when you were at school at University of Texas El Paso, were they educating athletes on ultimately that transition out of sports? Did you see any of that going on when you were there?
No, not really. So not a huge sports school. I think football is like the biggest program. Um, so I didn't really see a lot of that. I wasn't really exposed to any of that. My experience was, yeah, I played really competitively up until high school, and then didn't really have any resources around me or people I knew around me that kind of went to college and went to like play college soccer. So that's kind of where that college dream kind of died, and just decided to stay home for college, be with my family, and yeah, just kind of see where life pointed from there.
Yeah, I think it's changed a little bit. I mean, now I think there's maybe a little more emphasis on it. It's something that a lot of athletes, especially, you're so focused on your sport. So by the time you get done, it's all like, okay, what's next? And
Mhm.
they haven't really thought about that. And so I think that's where the importance of that curriculum comes into play. I mean, we've talked about going in with various resource partners and working, side by side with athletic departments, and not only helping the current athletes, but looking at the alumni athletes as well, because I think that's a lot of the alumni athletes get forgotten. I mean, it's understandable the schools concentrate on their current program, but I think it's important that they have that. So let's talk about networking, connecting. This is something that's real big with us. Talk about the importance of doing, especially while you're still playing.
Yeah, I think it's super important. Unfortunately for me, like, yeah, I had this really great network up until high school, a little bit, while I played for like under 23 team, and then I kind of lost sight of it. I went into my corporate job and just kind of like went heads down, all the tech stuff, learning all that. And it wasn't until really the pandemic that I started really networking with people a little bit more intentional in regards to the things that I really wanted to do. And so just looking back at what I probably should have done while I was still playing, while I was still in college, is just have those people, be curious to like these people that maybe have a job that you may one day want to do, or just talk to more people about your interests, about what you like doing, what you don't like doing. That will just like open up a lot of doors. because I just kind of fumbled my way through at the end of the day what I wanted to study, right? I wanted to be somehow related to sports. So I went to like kinesiology route, PT route, and like I took a biology class and I was like, no, this is not for me. I just kind of stumbled into like different things. But I wish like I would have just networked with more people, talked to more people, especially in the professional setting. And now in our business, what we teach athletes is that you have that .edu email address. So use it to your advantage, because a lot of people are eager to work with students, help them out, guide them, shape them, mentor them, whatever that looks like. And so if you have that access to that email, it really can open up a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that's great advice. And I think that's it. Just a lot of people either they just don't know how to do it or they're afraid to do it. And I think we've talked about too, even going back to high school, because you kind of talk about, the families you're playing with, different, your friends and all that. And who knows what their parents are doing, for a living, what kind of
Yeah.
careers they have, or even coaches too. So we encourage, um, anybody in general, just youth in general, to just start building your network. Whether it's in high school or when you go to college,
Mhm.
and that's something that we want to try to help too with Alumni Direct, just helping open up the doors. And I think what's happened is, I've talked to some agents where they say their player, the best time to do it while they're playing is because they're more relevant at that point. So you're playing your sport and everybody's around you. People want to get to know you, depending who you are, what the sport is, and it just gives opportunities. And even what we could talk a little more, expand upon it, but like what you're doing today with branding and all that with athletes, it becomes important to be well spoken, to talk to people and build those relationships. It's all part of networking and connecting. So let's talk a little bit about alumni engagement. So a lot of times, schools may or may not reach back out to alumni to come back and whether it's mentoring. Um, let's say athletes specific to the sport, or whether it's mentoring, just sports in general, just students in general. Was any of that going on that you saw where alumni coming back, and other than for the typical, golf tournaments and homecoming games and all that?
Back when I was in school, not really, but most recently, my high school started doing like an alumni tournament. And so a bunch of us 30 plus year olds show up to just play with the high school team. We play like a small game, but it's just super fun. And they get to, to do like some fundraising. We get to connect with the kids, talk to the parents, talk to the coaches. So be engaged that way. And I think that would have been cool if, back when I was in high school, it's like, oh, cool. You're talking to people that are 15 years ahead of you. Um, how that could have maybe influenced your route. So it's been super cool to just go back every year to El Paso, where my family is, and just attend those, talk to them, hang out, go for pizza later, and all that. So it's just been a good initiative that I think really more people need to do, because we're all connecting through soccer, but the lessons and the conversations that you have outside of soccer, outside of like actually playing the ball, um, they're super important. And I think they can help shape you, especially if like someone's a doctor and you want to go that route,
Yeah.
you're able to talk to them, get resources, and even maybe like a recommendation letter down the line. So it's just about identifying these people that are a few years ahead of you, and how can you tap them as you're kind of growing and expanding.
The thing we always talk about too is that when you're networking, it's not necessarily who that person is, but it could also be who they know. Because to your point, like that maybe they have a friend who's a doctor, or they have a friend who's in business, or whatever it might be. So just always be willing to open up the conversation. We also talk about, I'm all about paying it forward and helping people, and I think when you take that approach with networking, is take the approach of how can I help you,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's really important. It's not just kind of going in and saying, "Oh, I need this, this, and this, and how can you help me?" But how can I help you? Because I think that helps to establish a relationship. I mean, every day I have conversations like that, and people talk about that. It's just the people that they kind of get turned off on are the people that just come right at them and just say, "Do this for me." That becomes difficult. So I got a couple questions for you. These are
Mm-hmm.
easy ones, but I always like to throw them in there. So in 10 words or less,
Oh
what advice would you give to freshman Adrian in college?
man, it would just be keep leaning into your interests. Like your interests don't need to die once you enter college. And by interest, I mean keep playing soccer, keep kind of that same locker room vibe going into college. Cause like you just get in there and it's like test after test, trying to graduate, things like that, you kind of get lost. And so just going back to your sport, what you like to do, keep playing on a team is just super important. Keep training. All that will just keep you focused like on your goals. So yeah, I think it would just be keep leaning into and don't forget about your interests.
There you go. So that's freshman Adrian now. And
Mhm.
again, this is specific advice to you. Looking back, what advice would you give senior Adrian?
Senior Adrian would be, and it's kind of specific. Um,
Remember, 10 words or less. We're gonna make
yeah,
this easy for you.
yeah. Be okay with not going the conventional route
I
or
like
like the
that one.
standard route of you go to high school, you go to college. Oh, then now you need to like get your first job, then you buy a house, then you get married, then you have a kid. And I've pretty much followed that, but like I was doing a pretty cool initiative while I was in college. I was coaching a Special Olympics basketball team, primarily for my younger brother. I just went to go shoot hoops with him, and then all of a sudden I had 30 athletes on the court that I was just managing. I had some volunteers, and it was just a super cool time period in my life. And I had dreams of like, hey, how can I make this like an actual job? How can I turn this into a nonprofit? Things like that. But again, I didn't have that network around me, people that kind of knew how to do that or have done that before. And I didn't really know how to look for it at that point. And so I wish I would have just kept leaning into that, kept doing that, even if I wasn't getting paid or whatever, just because I learned so much from it. Like everything I do today is very much related to like that period in my life as well. And something would have come of it. So I wish I would have just maybe stuck with it a couple more years. You can always go back, find that big corporate job or whatever. But that's definitely that advice I would give is just don't go the conventional route. Be okay with it, not going.
There you go. All right, you heard it there. That's senior Adrian. So, um, talk a little bit about when you finished. Let's talk about your kind of I guess transition into your playing professionally for that short period of time. Like the difference between coming out of college and doing that. How was that transition for you?
Um, yeah, so it was actually during college that I had that
Oh,
opportunity.
okay.
And so basically did like a cold tryout. There was like, I don't know, 60 people on the field and was able to go to that and made the cut, started going down, made the team, um, trained with them probably a couple months. And then, um, and I think I made like it was the under 23 team, or under 22, like fuzzy details on that. But anyway, under whatever. And then at some point they were like just dividing the teams and trying to place people. And so they wanted to send me to, I think it was like the third division, out in like a small town, which was maybe a few hours away from my hometown. So I used to live on the border. So El Paso's border with Mexico. And so it was like just crossing the border where the team was in Juarez at the time was called Indios. And so they had a third division team a few hours away. They were like, hey, we think you'd be good for this. We're not able to offer any like financial support, housing support, anything like that. And so at the time, I was in college. I think I was maybe sophomore, junior. And so kind of getting into like the meat of my career, of what would be my career. And so they didn't really offer any of that. It just sounded a little risky. And I was at this crossroads where I was like, okay, do I really want to pursue this, or do I kind of want to go the more safe route, the more conventional route? Ultimately, that's what I chose. And I am super okay with that decision just because the team folded a year later. And so
Where it
that, I
worked out in
mean,
your benefit there.
yeah. I mean, it would have been a fun experience and whatnot, but at the time I couldn't take online classes. That wasn't really available. I had to like leave college for a year or whatever, however long it was. So at the time, I just kind of analyzing. I'm a big analyzer, a big analyst. So just looking at just my probabilities, how I was playing, the people, things like that. I was like, I don't know, it might not go too far. So kind of did that risk assessment, and I was like, you know what, I'm okay if I hang it up here. I just, yeah, I don't want to do that right now, and was completely fine with it. And then just kind of focused on completing my degree, and then kind of moving on to the next thing.
Yeah. So now, once you were done with that, I mean, you played soccer your whole life, playing sports and all that. So now you're kind of transitioning into the business world. You got into technology. Any challenges with that, or was it pretty smooth? 'Cause I think I'm asking that question, but I think sometimes it depends on the sport too, because I mean, yeah, there's soccer is definitely more prominent. Like for me as a runner, there's really not much you could do afterwards. I mean, unless you're an Olympian, I didn't have that opportunity. I wasn't good enough for that. But and any challenges with your transition, coming going from college to just going into the real world, so to speak?
Um, Not really outside of like the regular stuff where you're having trouble like landing a job and things like that, especially like in my hometown El Paso. At the time there wasn't really many like tech jobs that I kind of wanted. So once I found that tech job, moved out to Austin and kind of live like my actual college years where you like move away from your hometown, you're partying, you're going here and there. I was living with some friends that were still in school, so it kind of got that vibe of like going to an actual college outside of your hometown, paying rent, things like that. So that was kind of like my focus, plus like just learning all the tech stuff and starting to network there. But like even networking there didn't really feel as like genuine as it is now, just because it just felt like fake. And so the story I like to give is that I have two names. It's Samuel, Adrian. And so for a long time, like I felt like Samuel was the guy that went to work, went to school, and Adrian was the guy that played soccer, he played basketball, he was in sports, and the
That's
family guy and all
interesting.
that. And so it was like, okay, yeah, Samuel's the one that goes in networks and all that, but Adrian's the one that on weekends is playing soccer, or playing in a co-ed league or whatever. Um, and so it was felt rough. It felt like not genuine, not really kind of like the conversations I wanted to be having, until I started stepping into like this entrepreneurship route where I started really surrounding myself with people that like sports, like soccer. And then I realized there was just a whole new career path that you could do through sport that isn't really just on the field stuff.
Yeah, for sure. How do you, looking at, we always talk about the athlete DNA or the skill set. How do you think your athletic skills parlay into becoming an entrepreneur?
It's definitely like that grit, that not giving up mentality. Um, just because you have like this perfect vision of where you want to go in your business or how you want to grow as an entrepreneur, and it's not like that. But being willing to be patient, right? Let's say you're a guy on the bench, you're putting in the work, you're being patient for when your time is to be called, right? To get in the lineup, and then you do well. So just being patient, and then just working hard when people are not watching. That's something important. I remember when I did a mastermind, like I think it was like the first year of like entrepreneurship. I was like, yeah, I need this. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go learn all these business tactics. And then in 6 months, I'm going to have a super successful business. And it was completely opposite of that. It was a lot of personal development work. It was a lot of, yeah, just really personal work that I didn't know, one, I needed, and two, would help me with the business side of it. So that really smacked me in the face. But again, it was like, okay, these are the new cards I'm dealt. How do I navigate all these issues and just continue pairing it with like the success I want in business, and how can I keep growing from there and learning really?
Yeah, I think it definitely plays a lot into it. Like you said, just the perseverance is a big one for me. I mean, I think, as a fellow entrepreneur, there's a lot of roller coaster let you in, and I think being that athlete, the team leaders, and all that kind of stuff, I think that for sure plays into it. So let's talk about your transition out of sports. You went into the technology space, now ultimately into entrepreneurial space. Um, Talk about how you decided, okay, you know what, I'm not necessarily done with the corporate world, but I want to kind of do my own thing. Talk about your journey there.
Yeah, it was really when Austin FC announced they were coming to Austin, and I kind of started looking into, okay, what would a job at Austin FC look like? Obviously, being a huge soccer guy, I was like, yeah, I want to work in sports. So I kind of started looking into it, and then like I just stumbled into like a bunch of resources, And then around the same time, a USL team, so it's like the division under MLS, they brought a team here to Austin, and I ended up taking a job doing data entry. So like take my phone, it was kind of like a video game, and you would go to the games, they would pay you, and like you do corner kick, goal kick, substitution, goal, and just reporting these, and they would take that data. That company would take that data and just do like live bets with it. And so that's where I first started like, oh, okay, there is an actual job you could do outside of just being like medical staff on the field or a coach or something like that. And then during that time period, I think it was like a year and a half or maybe two that I did that, which was awesome because I got to go to the games. I brought my wife. They paid for me. So it was awesome. And there I met Amobi, my now business partner, and he was playing at the team. And I just kind of started following people on social media that I liked how they played, or they actually had social media content. He was one of them, and he posted one time that he needed help with business development and marketing. And so I looked at his page, looked at what he was doing. He was talking about personal finances, and I was like, hey, I love that. Like that's the stuff I like to geek out about on my own, outside of like soccer and things like that. That's like another like mini passion of mine. And so I reached out. I was like, hey, I'm interested. I don't do that though. Like I'm not a biz dev guy. I'm not a marketing guy, but like I want to help. So we met, and he basically started telling me about his business. Like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. And I was like, hey, dude, you're doing like a lot of things, and this is great. I think I can just come in and help you kind of streamline the back end and optimize the things that you're doing. That way you're not doing all these manual efforts, right? Let's leverage technology to get you to do more things, basically. So did that, and then ended up hiring like a team of interns, and we've just been growing since then. And this was during the pandemic, which again gave me time back to kind of focus on what I like to do, what I don't like to do. And I just doubled down on, hey, I like sport, I like this personal finance, let me just see what it snowballs into. And that's where I got exposed to all this athlete transition and entrepreneurship and things like that. And so we just started building from there. And it's taking on many different forms, many different things. It's about to transition again, but it's been fun really iterating, trying new things, and ultimately to help the athlete with their own transition whenever it comes.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, adding a lot to it. So I guess talk. So now you already started talking about it, but let's go into a little more in depth into athlete CEO, and I guess maybe give some examples of some of the things that you are doing. I mean, it sounds pretty broad. And
Yeah.
then like how how you're working with people. Is it all remote? Is it in person? Like talk about some of that.
Yeah. So we're remote. I'm in Texas. My business partner is in California. And so what essentially we're doing, Athlete CEO stands for athlete creator, entrepreneur, operator, speaker. So really empowering athletes to become an enterprise and kind of not master, but go into like one of these lanes that they may naturally fall into. Maybe a lot of athletes are like athlete creators. Okay, cool. How can we help you through systems, through processes, through like ideation? How can we help you create more content? How can you become an entrepreneur? How can you take that creator business and like level set it, create your LLC, maybe hire a team and help you manage it, whatever. And then that turns into like operator, how are you operating the business? How are you scaling your business? And then the speaker part, we throw in the S there just because we think athletes make great speakers. And so how can you use your experience from sport and business and just translate that to like some sort of speaking gig or business, depending on the athlete. But really what we're all about is trying to empower the athlete to do more things off the field. And the athletes that we're looking to work with, that we work with, are athletes that kind of know their value. They know they're not like maybe the superstar of the team, and that the end will come soon enough. And so how can we work with them to just build out all these assets so that they can just do more with their brand once they're done playing? And some of the assets that I talk about is a lot of like on the digital side. How can we get your website in order? If you have a podcast or newsletter, how can you show up on social media and just have like a clean link in bio? How are you redirecting traffic to all your different initiatives? That way it doesn't get lost in translation. One of my pet peeves is when I see an athlete post about a certain collaboration or anything like that, and I go to his page and I can't see it. And they don't have it linked, or it's only in their story. And so that to me is just missed opportunity. So how can I help these athletes not miss those opportunities and just tell like a clean picture across the board from LinkedIn to newsletter to their social media. And really the last bit I'll add is that what we're trying to do is we're trying to replicate my business partner's story where he started his brand called A Frugal Athlete while he was playing. And now he's been able to translate that business into like many other opportunities once sport was done for him. And so how can we create more athlete entrepreneurs really, and just leverage systems and processes to make it all happen.
Yeah, and I think you hit a key there is just like doing while he was still playing. So I think a lot of these podcasts that I do, and I've talked to athletes across all sports, wrestlers, football players, soccer, baseball, basketball, Olympians. It's across the board, but I think the thing definitely resonates when people talk about having that like you always hear plan A, plan B, plan C kind of a thing, but the fact that he was doing it. I think definitely helped and probably jump started too to to ultimately start the company that you guys have. Is there a particular sports that you focus on, being soccer players, or are you just across all sports?
It's across all sports. Primarily a lot of contacts in the soccer space that we're trying to work with. Especially with the World Cup coming, we're trying to just double down in the soccer space. But we've done projects with different athletes from like NFL, NBA, volleyball, like whatnot. So it's really across the board and really with an effort to just help that athlete tell their story and just show up and then create things that will just impact the community.
That's great. So when they're telling their story, you're on the front and you're trying to just understand, like you said, the LinkedIn profiles, everything they have, so that you can help them shape it properly. So I mean, obviously it's their story, but you're kind of guiding them to make sure that the best product comes out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it comes down to just accountability. The athletes we've worked with are very ambitious, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to create 20 posts a week. That's not happening. So how can we get more realistic? How do we keep them accountable? How do we build these like dashboards so that they're competitive with themselves and like, oh, I said I was going to do 20 posts a month. I only did 15 in September. How can I improve upon that? So like, how do we create these metrics, these KPIs also that they're kind of still competing, but now with themselves and for their business really.
And then when you're creating these metrics, is it something that's kind of scalable across the different athletes? Is it like something that you're setting up from a tech perspective?
Yeah, it's always custom to whoever we're working with.
Okay.
It's never like, yeah, all the athletes need a LinkedIn, all the athletes need a Instagram or whatever. It's more of like, how do we create custom dashboards, custom metrics so that you can track to them, because they're going to be different things. One athlete may want more speaking engagements while the other just wants to write tweets maybe. So that would be like one example.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, and how can people find you?
Yeah. On our website, athleteceo.me. That's probably the best place. Athlete CEO on LinkedIn as well, and Instagram. That's where we're at.
That's good. Well, you definitely need to check out Adrian. You can find us at alumnidirect.com. Our YouTube channel is where you find the show, Athletes, Entrepreneurs, Alumni Journey. We're also across all the different podcast networks and LinkedIn and Facebook and all that. But this has been great. I think there's a need. We all come looking at different ways of athletes transitioning out of sports, and it sounds like you're doing some great things in that space in helping them to move forward. And I think it's so important to have companies like yours and Alumni Direct out there, trying to make a difference with the athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's never, you're never early in as an athlete just building your brand or doing things outside the field. It's super important and will lead to like just great things. So I encourage everyone to kind of lean into that.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And thanks, Adrian. Another episode of Athletes, Entrepreneurs, Alumni Journey.